What's up guys, my name's Topher, and today I'm going to be showing you how to play Stormbringer Enhancement Shaman. So Stormbringer Enhancement Shaman has a bunch of really awesome things going for it. It's got huge burst, versatile AoE and single target damage, so you can really customize your build to excel more in single target or in multi-target depending on if it's a fortified or tyrannical week. The other thing is you're a lightning lord. You shoot so much lightning out with this build. It's really fun. It's very thematic. It's kind of reminiscent of old versions of Enhancement Shaman, maybe back in Wrath when you really only had those lightning abilities to spend your Maelstrom weapon on. And it's got this dynamic rotation. So a lot of classes, what you're doing is very set in stone at all times. You know, your rotation is stacked. You're building up this to spend that. Well, Enhancement Shaman has a super dynamic rotation that is continuously changing. You know, it runs off of a priority system, which we will explain by the end of this video, and it'll help you a lot when it comes down to, you know, mastering the art of an Enhancement Shaman. So let's jump right into it. I'm going to talk about like the major tools within the Enhancement Shaman kit, and then we will go into the rotation and exactly how you're going to use these things in practice. Alright, here's the talent build we're currently using. It is a 1-for-1 direct copy from the one on Wowhead. They're doing some really great work. They've got some awesome builds over there. I highly recommend if you're just starting out a class, just using that build and reading what they have to offer. And then once you're starting to get a little bit more into it and you want to have those super in-depth conversations, finding a content creator like myself to kind of point that out to you. So, here's our talent tree. We're going to start out with the Stormbringer specialization in the hero talents, and then we are going to move on from there. So when it comes to Stormbringer, you've got Tempest here. Tempest has a passive there. It says, every 40 Maelstrom weapon stacks spent, replace your next lightning bolt with Tempest. Tempest, it does a bunch of nature damage, it does AoE damage as well to all targets within 8 yards of your main target. Now, a really important thing to keep in mind here is it says every 40 Maelstrom weapon stacks spent, not accrued. So when you have enough Maelstrom weapons to send a spell, you should probably do that. The closer that you get to 10, the better it's going to be as far as getting to that actual, Tempest proc. However, in real-time gameplay, you're not always going to be spending your Maelstrom weapons at 10 stacks. I honestly recommend, unless you're casting Tempest, to use your Maelstrom weapon stacks around 9 stacks, because if you get more than 10, you're overcapping and you're wasting those Maelstrom weapon procs. Really, my mentality is the more that you spend, the quicker you get to this Tempest, and when you use Tempest, a whole bunch of really cool things happen to your rotation and making it a little bit more dynamic. Like this one here, Arc Discharge. Arc Discharge. When Tempest strikes more than one target, your next 2 Chain Lightning casts are instant and deal 40% increased damage. Now, this by itself is really, really powerful. However, it stacks with Maelstrom Weapon. And the way that percentage increases work in World of Warcraft is they are additive. So that 250% damage that you're getting from Maelstrom Weapon is going to stack with this 40% increased damage from Arc Discharge, making you deal 290% increased damage, which is higher than a crit just baseline, and then when that crits, it just even goes crazier. I've seen 3 million crits on this build, and I'm only 580 item level, so it's just going to keep going up. Other than that, we've got Supercharge. Supercharge is right here. Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning have a 33% chance to refund 3 Maelstrom weapon stacks. This is super, super powerful. There have been plenty of times when I cast one of these spells and I'm instantly right back up to 10, especially if you're using things like Primordial Wave, which makes your Lightning Bolt AoE, but also your Chain Lightning. The Chain Lightning can get that on every single target that it strikes, getting you that Maelstrom really, really fast, and it feeds into the rest of the playstyle, which is super, super awesome. Lastly, I've got Awakening Storms and Conducting Energy. So Awakening Storms is going to be this right here. Your Storm Strike, your Lightning Bolt, and Chain Lightning have a chance to strike your target for 98,000 nature damage. That's going to go up when you have higher mastery. Every 3 times this occurs, your next Lightning Bolt is replaced by Tempest. So this is going to give you even more Tempest procs, which is going to feed into all the other things that we've brought up previously. Lastly, this is a smaller thing to keep in mind, but it kind of helps in this AoE situations as well as single target. Conductive Energy, Tempest, Lightning Bolt, and Elemental Blast, as well as Chain Lightning, give your target a debuff called lightning rod. When you cast lightning bolt or chain lightning, 10% of that damage is going to be echoed to those targets, meaning that once you get going, you're just going to have even more damage on top of the huge damage that you're already doing, just passive baseline baked into the class. You don't even have to do anything for it to happen. Super, super great. So that's going to be an outline on Stormbringer. Pretty much all of the important things that you need to keep in mind rotation-wise are there, but I do highly recommend going in and reading all of these for yourself. All right, let's move on to the actual talent tree. All right, so let's talk about the build a little bit more in depth here. So we've got Storm Strike, Lava Lash. These here are going to be your main filler abilities. They're also going to help you build up your Maelstrom weapon stacks in order for you to spend them much more effectively. So every time Storm Strike is up, you want to press it as long as you're not at 10 stacks of Maelstrom weapon. Same thing with Lava Lash. If it's up, you're not at 10 stacks of Maelstrom weapon, you press that before you use your spender. It's super easy. It kind of plays itself with those two portions. So let's read this. Storm Strike replaces Primal Strike. You're not using that anymore. You probably haven't used that since like the beginning of your character if you started at level 1. Don't worry about that portion. But it energizes both of your weapons with lightning and delivers a massive blow to your target, dealing a total of 117,000 physical damage, right? Storm Strike has a 100% chance to generate 1 stack of Maelstrom weapon. Cool thing about this is Storm Strike stacks with both of your weapons. So if I come over here, this is a tanking dummy, I might get smacked. When I do that, I did just get 1 stack there. However, if you generate it with both of your weapon hits, it can give you 2 stacks of Maelstrom weapons. So Storm Strike, super, super high priority. Definitely recommend keeping that one in mind. Lava Lash, kind of the same thing. It's going to give you 1 stack every time. It doesn't have a chance to double up and give you 2, unfortunately. However, when you use Lava Lash, it's going to increase the damage of your Flame Shock on the target, as well as spread it to every single or 4 of the nearby targets. So it's going to refresh the duration on your main target and spread Flame Shock to 4 other targets, and then it's going to continue to maintain Flame Shock on those targets. So these longer cleave scenarios are super, super great. There's also an ability in here called Hot Hand, which is going to enhance your Lava Lash. So Hot Hand, melee auto attacks with Flame Tongue Weapon, which are your offhand attacks, have a 5% chance to reduce the cooldown of Lava Lash by 75% and increase the damage of Lava Lash by 40% for 8 seconds. When this procs, Lava Lash goes up to the top of your rotation unless you're at 10 stacks of Maelstrom Weapon. If Hot Hand procs, you are hitting that Flame Tongue Weapon attack, Lava Lash, every single time that it's up, unless you are in like a super, super specific set of scenarios, and we will go into that once we get there. Another thing is Lashing Flames. This is the portion of Lava Lash that makes it so that your Flame Shock does more damage. Now, if you have a Hot Hand proc and you've got Flame Shock on a whole bunch of different targets, I highly recommend tab targeting and making sure that you apply this debuff to every single target there, especially on Fortified Weeks. On Fortified Weeks, they're going to live for a little bit longer, so you're going to get more value out of this, and your Flame Shock is going to do more damage to each individual target. I also want to point out Ashen Catalyst. This here, every time that your Flame Shock does damage to any target, it's going to lower the cooldown of your Lava Lash and increase the damage of it. So this here is super, super nice. It's just a passive damage increase. So, we've gone over Storm Strike, we've gone over Lava Lash and why they're important. Now I want to talk about Fire Nova. Fire Nova takes every single target that you have inflicted by Flame Shock and it explodes in a fire circle around them and hits everybody around them, right? So this starts to get out of hand really quickly, especially once you've spread that Flame Shock with your Lava Lash. So it's going to do a really, really nice chunk of damage there, but really the most important part is the last line here. Each eruption from Fire Nova generates 1 stack of Maelstrom Weapon. Now that is super, super powerful. That allows you to kind of smooth out your rotation and make sure that you're always at a point where you're not going to have a dead global cooldown. If you've got 1 stack of Maelstrom Weapon and you've got 5 targets with the Lava Lash on them or the Flame Shock on them, you press this button, you're at 6 stacks automatically. You can then hit it like a Crash Lightning and a Storm Strike, put you up to 10, and hit a massive, huge, huge Chain Lightning or Tempest on them. So it's really nice if you're in a pinch, you ran out of Maelstrom, and you need to be able to instantly cast something. If this is up, press it, just like that. What else do we have? Sundering, awesome. So Sundering, it's really nice to use specifically in AoE situations. It's kind of towards the bottom of the rotation, single target. But in AoE situations, it's super nice because it generates a melee swing on every single target that it hits. So that's going to generate Maelstrom weapon stacks. It can proc Wind Fury. Wind Fury can also generate Maelstrom stacks. It kind of compounds on itself. Super, super cool. All right. Crash Lightning, you want to keep this buff up in every single AoE situation. It's super nice. It makes it so that your next few attacks for the next 12 seconds are going to cleave around you like we talked about previously. Very, very strong. Very good to keep this buff up, especially in AoE situations. In single target, it's not always worth pressing. However, if you've got nothing else up and you need some Maelstrom weapon stacks and you need to use something to fill that GCD, it's better than not using anything. So this is like bottom priority in single target, but super high priority in multi-target as long as you don't have that that buff up, or if you're refreshing it. I've got Primordial Wave here. This build is called Naked Primordial Wave because Primordial Wave doesn't have anything to support it. It's just the baseline spell. And the way that this reads is it says you blast your target with a Primordial Wave, dealing elemental damage and applying Flame Shock to them. So in an AoE situation, if you want to do like as much damage as possible immediately, you open up by using Primordial Wave. You follow it up with a Flame Shock, Primordial Wave, which applies Flame Shock. You follow it up with a Lava Lash on your target, and then you use Fire Nova to get your Maelstrom weapon stacks up really quickly, and then you hit a Lightning Bolt immediately, because Lightning Bolt is going to hit all of them for 175% damage, and that also amps up with the Maelstrom weapon stacks. So if you can get up to 10 stacks in those few globals, which happens very often, I think you're going to have a really fun time with that. Other than that, I've got Feral Spirits. Feral Spirits is cool. It is augmented by this Elemental Spirits as well as Witch Doctor's Ancestry. Those two are going to make a really, really important impact on what you got going on here. So, summons 2 Elemental Spirit Raptors that aid you in battle for 15 seconds. They are immune to movement impairing effects, and each grants an Elemental Feral Spirit buff. So you get either fire, frost, or nature damage increased by 20% depending on what color the spirit is. Another really cool thing here is when you cast Tempest, one of these things summons a elemental or a lightning feral spirit, which is just going to increase your nature damage by even more and allow you to continue proccing these huge lightning bolts as well as chain lightnings. So this here Witch Doctor's Ancestry increases the chance of Maelstrom Weapon to apply by 4%, huge. And whenever you gain a stack of Maelstrom Weapon, the cooldown of Feral Spirits is reduced by 2 seconds, which is huge because Feral Spirit also grants you Maelstrom Weapon stacks while the Feral Spirits are active. I think it's like, what does it say? 1 stack immediately and then 1 stack every 3 seconds for 15 seconds. Now, the Feral Spirit that is summoned when you cast Tempest also gives you this increase. So you're getting an extra 1 every time you cast Tempest, and that can happen really, really quickly, especially when you're getting procs of these lightning strikes that are random. If you get all 3 of them and you cast like Tempest, and then when you cast that Tempest, reaches the 40 threshold, you get another Tempest the next global, especially if it goes ahead and refreshes the stacks there, or refunds the stacks, then you just get an immediate Tempest again at 10. That's super, super awesome. It does get a little bit crazy, the cooldown reduction on the Feral Spirit, when you cast Ascendance. So while Ascendance is active, you generate 2 stacks of Maelstrom Weapon, or you generate 2 stacks every 1 second, and this happens for 15 seconds. So you're getting 1 per stack every single wolf that you have out. When you cast it, like the actual spell puts out 2 wolves, but it just gives you 1 instance of that Maelstrom Weapon increase. But this Ascendance also stacks with that. And your Maelstrom Weapon goes up so fast that you need to make sure that you're leaving room in your globals to get those spirits out to increase your Maelstrom Weapon generation after the Ascendance window is done, to help smooth out the rotation and give you more Tempest procs, which is really awesome. Now, there are some capstones on this that are pretty important to mention. The static accumulation, it says 20% chance to refund Maelstrom Weapon stacks spent on Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning. And then while Ascendance is active, it does those Maelstrom Weapon stacks. So not only are you getting the 20% chance to refund all of the stacks of Maelstrom Weapon that you're using, you're getting this over here that gives you an extra 35% on 3 stacks coming back. So no matter what, you're probably going to get some of those stacks back. However, this is why I say it's a pretty good idea to cast your spells when you're not at a full 10 Maelstrom weapon stacks, because if you get a refund on that immediately, and then that 3 procs, you're only wasting like 2 or 3, or 1 or 2 Maelstrom weapon stacks, which is going to be super, super beneficial because you want to spend as many as possible, not overcap, so that you lower the cooldown on that Tempest proc and you're playing properly. Lastly, we've got this here, Thorm's Invocation. Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning damage increased by 20%. That's baseline. That's not while Ascendance is up, that's just there. So now you have your Mastery, you've got Maelstrom Weapon, and you've got Thorm's Invocation increasing your Chain Lightning and Lightning Bolt damage, as well as them refunding stacks of Maelstrom weapons so you can spam them more often. Other than that, while Ascendance is active, Wind Strike, which takes over your Storm Strike when you cast Ascendance, it can consume up to 5 Maelstrom weapon stacks and discharge a Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning at 100% effectiveness, whichever is most recently used. So this one here, just really the main thing, if you use Wind Strike and you're about to overcap on Maelstrom, it's only going to use 5 of those. So if you've got more than 5 stacks of Maelstrom weapon before you go to cast Wind Strike, you want to spend that. And then you're going to press the Wind Strike and it's going to build up those stacks. In some cases, it's going to shoot something off immediately. In other cases, it's just going to get you closer to that 10 stacks so that you can get a big, meaty, whatever your spender is going to be. Tempest, Chain Lightning, Lightning Bolt. Very, very, very powerful. Highly recommend getting good at using this. The most important thing, though, like I said before, you want to spend your Maelstrom weapon between pressing Wind Strike. If you don't, you're going to lose out on procs, and you're going to miss out on Tempest casts. Alright, so that's kind of it for the enhancement tree. The only thing I want to touch on that I didn't really bring up is this right here, Lava Burst. In some builds, Lava Burst is kind of in that rotation. This is not one of them. Stormbringer, it has so many modifiers that are affecting specifically Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning that even though this crits every single time, and in some cases it will do like slightly more damage, it's not worth using really ever. Now, if at some point we are running Elemental Blast instead of Lava Burst with this build, then it's probably going to go up in priority because those secondary stats that you get out of Elemental Blast are super, super potent. All right. And with that, I think we're going to segue into stats. So let's go into the stat priority for Enhancement Shaman. The most important stats that you'll be looking for on your pieces of gear are Agility, Haste, and Mastery. This class here actually has a higher priority on Haste than it does on Agility. Some classes actually scale really well off of secondary stats, and this is one of them. And that does come with it like a small caveat. If you're looking at 5,000 to 7,000 agility that you're losing out on for a little bit of haste, it's not worth it. In that case, you want to take that agility. But in most cases, item level wise, if you've got a piece of gear with the same item level that has higher haste and mastery than it does on any other stats, typically you want to have that equipped. I do recommend running Sims on your character though. So those stats are going to be your most important ones. Really, I would say the class starts to pick up and take off once you get around 25 to 30% haste. Right now, that's kind of difficult to do. However, we do have something in here called Unlimited Power, which makes it so when you spend Maelstrom Weapon, you get 1% haste for 15 seconds stacking. Granting a new stack does not refresh the duration, so in practice, when you're actually playing the spec, you're probably going to be sitting around 25% just baseline if you're spending your stacks effectively. Also, if you've got this here, the Ascendance on your weapons, it's going to increase those secondary stats and help a little bit out when bridging that gap, but it does change the stat from time to time. Honestly, it's still super high value because you're putting so much investment into Haste and Mastery. Your lower statted stats are going to have a higher effectiveness from that baseline stat. So, really highly recommend having Ascendance on your pieces of gear. So that's going to be your stat priority and your gearing priority. Always sim your character. Sometimes it's not going to be haste over mastery being your most important thing. When you hit a certain breakpoint, the stats start to have less of an impact on your character. And what I mean by that is I've got 10,001 haste right now, right? Once you reach a certain breakpoint, each point of haste, like the actual stat, gives you less of that percentage. So I'm not sure if I've reached that yet. I'm not sure what the exact values are on this expansion for that. However, when I sim my character, the equipment that I have equipped right now is the best equipment that I can have. And one of those pieces has crit on it, 1700 crit. So having none of a stat is much worse than having a piece of gear that doesn't have like your 2 best stats on it. Keep that in mind as you're gearing your character out. All right, let's jump right into it, guys. So Enhancement Shaman is all about, enhancing your abilities. You've got things like Wind Fury weapon here, which is going to be your main hand weapon. You want to keep this up at all times, as well as Flame Tongue weapon, which will do your offhand weapon. Really, they're just kind of like thematic. The Wind Fury weapon is really the most important one. Wind Fury weapon allows you to get a chance to trigger 2 more auto attacks, which is going to help you build Maelstrom weapon. So, Maelstrom weapon. When you deal damage with the melee weapon, including when you use Wind Fury weapon, as well as some of the spells in here like Sundering, Lava Lash, Storm Strike, and Crash Lightning. When you deal damage with those things, you have a chance to gain Maelstrom weapon stacking up to 10 times. Each stack of Maelstrom weapon reduces the cast time of your next damage or healing spell by 20% and increases its damage by 25% or its healing by 25%. A maximum of 10 stacks of Maelstrom weapon can be consumed at a time. That's also the maximum amount that you can carry at a time. So if you hit 10 stacks, you want to spend immediately. And in a lot of cases, you're going to be spending around 8 or 9 anyway, because you don't want to overcap that. Really, the main time that I would say that you want to cast it at 10 stacks every single time is when you have Tempest up. Tempest is going to be one of your largest damaging abilities, and it is impacted by Maelstrom weapon. We'll go into that when we talk about Stormbringer. All right, so that's going to be kind of like the main things to keep in mind as you're starting. We'll go from there. Then we're going to go ahead and Storm Strike into Lava Lash. Look at that, I'm at 10 stacks. Chain Lightning. Then we're going to go ahead and use this Fire Nova to get close to 10 because Tempest procced again, so we're going to use Tempest. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to go back into that rotation. Look here, I fucked up. Look at my rotation. I had Feral Spirits up. I wasn't at 10 stacks. I wasted a global cooldown. That's damage that I could have lost, and it's because I made a mistake. Huge damage here. As you see, these Tempests are hitting for like 4 million, followed by massive Chain Lightning. So that one did 3 million, not even at 10 stacks. This one's at 10 stacks. Let's see what it does. 3 million as well. It doesn't give me like the full number. It just says millions. All right. Now look at this situation here. I've got Tempest available. I've got Flame Shock on 5 targets, which is indicated here. I've got Tempest and I have Primordial Wave. When this happens, you're going to do huge damage. You go ahead and Primordial Wave, you hit Tempest. It still shoots the Tempest, which does 3 million, and then the 8 million damage came from Lightning Bolt hitting every target there too. So you're hitting AoE damage with the Tempest, and you're hitting AoE damage with the Lightning Bolt, which usually hits 1 target, so it slaps. And then typically you can just follow that up immediately with the Chain Lightning like this. While you're playing an AoE, you always want to make sure that you have the Crash Lightning buff up. It is also a very powerful tool to use if you need to generate a lot of stacks of Maelstrom weapon quickly and you've got really nothing else to do that. It typically does give you those stacks when you use it, so I highly recommend using that in those AoE situations. You want to keep Feral Spirits out as much as possible. You're always getting cooldown reduction on that, so casting those abilities is super important. So yeah, that's your AoE opener. Let's go into the single target opener. Alright, let's talk about the single target opener here. Now I'm going to walk you through it before I do it, and then I'm going to do it real time. So, as you're approaching the target, you're going to cast Primordial Wave. You're going to follow that up by Feral Spirits as you're approaching before you've reached melee. You are then going to use Lava Lash to put Lashing Flames on the target and increase the rate at which your Flame Shock is dealing damage. You're going to follow that up with the Storm Strike, and then you're going to cast your Lightning Bolt if you're above 8 Maelstrom weapon stacks. If you're not, you're going to use Crash Lightning to try to get closer to that 8. Once you hit 8, you're going to send that Lightning Bolt. You are then going to follow that with the normal rotation. So, Storm Strike and Lava Lash are at the top of your rotation if you are below 8 stacks of Maelstrom weapon. Once you get to 8 stacks or above on those Maelstrom weapons, you are going to cast your Lightning Bolts or your Chain Lightnings. and those move up to the top of your priority. If you get a hot hand proc, you are going to use Lava Lash as soon as it is off cooldown every single time. Make sure you are spending your Maelstrom weapon properly to make sure that you are doing that. Also, in this burst rotation, after that first lightning bolt, you are supposed to cast Ascendance. I'm sorry for missing it the first time. I will do it properly in the actual showcase here. So, I'm going to talk you through my philosophy while I'm doing it. Let's go ahead and do our opener here. So, as we approach, we are going to Primordial Wave. We are then going to cast Feral Spirits. Follow that up with a Lava Lash for Lashing Flame, Storm Strike. I'm not at 8 stacks, so I go ahead and I press Crash Lightning. I'm slowing it down so I can talk you through it. I then use Lightning Bolt. That put me up to 10. I'm going to use Lightning Bolt again. Put me up to 10 again. I'm going to use Lightning Bolt again. That was a crazy opener with those resets. Look at this. This is the dynamic changing, so I go ahead and I use the Spirit Wolves because they came back up again. I'm trying to get myself to a point where I can do this. Nice. I can cast Ascendance because I'm below 5. Look at this. We're continuing to go fast. I'm at 10. Go ahead and spend that. Spend that again. I went back up to 10. Look at Feral Spirits are up. I'm going to go ahead and use my my 10 stacks again for another Tempest. I'm going to continue my rotation. I'm going to go ahead and use my Spenders as soon as I hit close to 10 or 10. I hit it right there. Cool. I'm Storm Striking because I am below 10. Look at this. I've got my Wolves up again for the 3rd or 4th time now. Tempest at 10. Awesome. We're going. I'm going to go ahead. Look at this. My Primordial Wave is up, but I'm not sending it yet because I want to make sure that I have that available for my Tempest here when it comes up. So Tempest is soon. It has to be. I'm still throttling. It's worth throttling in this situation because it's not a multi-target situation. Awesome. See, I've got Tempest up right here. I'm approaching 10. I'm going to go ahead and use Primordial Wave. On the global, I'm going to be able to use the 10 stack. Look at that. It reset. It gave me 10, and I have another Tempest. Oh my god, it reset again. I'm going to spend again. Holy shit, this is crazy, guys. And it's non-stop. And if you look, if I'm playing it like full speed, there are no missed globals, you know. This one here is an open one, so I'm going to go ahead and wait for a second. But, oh, look at that. I've got Sundering, so it doesn't have to be. Oh, look at this. I can use Frost Shock to fill if I've got nothing else up. Oh, wow, Wolves are up again. Look at that. Perfect, perfect. I should have throttled that Tempest, actually, which is kind of crazy. I would say if Primordial Wave is within, like, 5 seconds of coming up and you've got Tempest, I would hold that Tempest for that. But yeah, this is, I mean, crazy. I'm doing 500k while I'm talking you through it, and with the breaks that I took. Really, really nice. In a clip that I'm going to show you at the end, I do about like 2 million damage single target during my burst cooldowns when I'm playing it properly, fully locked in. So, let's move on to the AoE rotation now. Alright. And this is, I'm going to go ahead and do my AoE opener now without talking through it, and I'm going to see exactly how I can hit. I'm also going to send Ascendance in this. I didn't talk about it because typically, Nikki, you don't want to, unless it's a fortified week, in which case things kind of change. But, you know, I just want to show you guys exactly how far this can be pushed. Alright, so we're going to start out like we were talking before. I'll use a Primordial Wave into my Feral Spirits while I'm moving up. The main difference here is I am going to send Ascendance as well really early on, and it's going to augment my damage for a quick burst window. I'm also going to use my Trinket this time around. This one here is called the Ravenous Honey Buzzer. I need to upgrade it. I need to get more Flight Stones, but I don't have them right now. Alright, ready? Here we go. So while you're approaching, I'm holding the Tempest here for Primordial Wave. There we go, 9 stacks. Beautiful. I've got Dead Time. I did something wrong. Sending Tempest. Sent a Lightning Bolt there on accident because this rotation is pretty fucking difficult. Look at this. Tempest with Primordial Wave. It just happened to sync up when the Primordial Wave came up. But if you look down at the bottom there, I'm maintaining 2 million DPS currently. In 5 target. So in console fights and raids and things like that, this build is going to be incredibly potent as well. It's very rare that you see somebody maintain this level of AoE damage outside of burst windows. Dude, Tempest just pops. Another perfect Tempest window here. And we'll use the trinket again to finish it off. Look at that. Ending out at 2 million DPS, Chain Lightning, Tempest, all those guys up at the top. Those ones that you're seeing at the top, those are the ones that we were talking about being high in your priority, and that is exactly why. Alright, last I want to show this clip from the stream of me walking towards one of these bosses here and the damage that you can achieve if you keep all of these things in mind. Now, this is a very, very fast combat. There's another pumper in the group. However, during Ascendance, you can expect, with Lust, to hit around 2 million DPS single target. Look at how fast this boss melts. I mean, absolutely insane. 29 million damage in, what, 15 seconds? Alright. That's all I really have for you guys. So I really hope that you enjoy playing Enhancement Shaman. I hope you enjoy what you saw here today. Hopefully we see you on the stream. And that's all. Peace.